Midterm election campaigns in full swing, and voters head to the polls next week in Ohio and in Indiana as primaries get underway for those midterm elections. The races will test former President Trump's influence over the Republican Party. Could be a referendum on the Biden presidency as well. Lots of issues on the table. So joining us now, one of the candidates hoping to be the GOP nominee in Ohio's 7th Congressional District, candidate Jonah Schulz. Jonah, thanks very much for being with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So we're looking into your background. Your story's pretty interesting. You're a former baseball player, now running a nonprofit that rehabs old ball fields. What about your life experience inspired you to run for Congress?
Well, you know, after my baseball career ended, I was looking for an opportunity to use my passions, use my God-given gifts and abilities to be able to help those around me, help my communities. And that ultimately led me to founding Diamonds in the Rough that renovates rundown baseball fields in underprivileged communities. But leading into politics, you know, I've been involved in politics for several years, and I would meet with elected officials. I would meet with individuals who are running for office. And I would so often find that they were so out of touch with the needs of average working class Americans. And more than a republic, more than a democracy, we are living under an oligarchy of wealthy elitists that really control every aspect of our lives. They control our government, they control our politics, they control our education, our media, big tech. And we, as the people, the average people who live and work in our communities, have less and less power. So I realized we needed true working class outsiders to start running for office, to start taking these seats, and individuals who are only beholden to the people, not beholden to corporations, not beholden to PACs or the special interests, but only to the people. And so ultimately living my life searching for service, searching how I can serve my fellow man is what led me into politics and what led me into this race.
That's good. Classic American populist message there, and it may be time, and it will resonate for the voters in your district. But let's take a look at your district. We're going to show a map here, talking about areas, suburban areas, west and south of Cleveland. And I guess under the old map, the old congressional map was represented by Republican incumbent Congressman Bob Gibbs. He's not running, and after redistricting, looks like maybe the district includes more Democratic-leaning parts of Cuyahoga County now. So do you think you need to reach out to Democratic voters if you're the Republican nominee? Or are you one of those who say that if you could just get more Republicans to the polls, you'll be able to beat any Democrat? What do you think?
Well, I think we need individuals who will truly represent the interests of all people, Republican and Democrat. When I'm elected, I'm not looking to just serve Republicans. I will be looking to serve Republicans and Democrats alike, all the people that I am sworn in to serve. But ultimately, we need people who put the Constitution first and put people first. My one job, the one job of the federal government, is to defend the rights of the individual. It's not to expand itself. It's not to expand its authority into people's lives. Ultimately, I want to get the power out of D.C., back to our states, back to our communities. And so let those individuals, those families live their lives, make their own choices. And again, as somebody in government, defend the rights of the individual, not the corporations, not the special interests, but the individuals. And I think that that message of how we clean up corruption in Congress, how do we get power out of D.C. is going to resonate with both the left and the right, because people at the end of the day want to be free to live their own lives.
Just to follow up on that, do you believe that the federal government has a role in providing health care assistance, Medicare, Medicaid, parts of the Affordable Care Act that have been adopted across the country? You think that's good, or would you roll back those?
Well, there's certainly some things that need to be rolled back, because as we look at the government getting involved more and more heavily in our medical system, the more the government gets involved, the more expensive that these services go. The most two heavily regulated industries in the United States are our healthcare field and education. And those are the two most skyrocketing cost fields in the United States for decades. And so ultimately, we need to move to a more free market approach. You look at things like LASIK eye surgery that are much less regulated and have far more options for the American consumer. Those rates have stayed steady. Those prices have stayed steady or decreased, allowing for more consumers to have more options and be able to afford it. So ultimately, taking the free market approach that puts the consumer first and not the medical monopolies that we have in so many areas of the country.
Fair enough. So one of the candidates running against you in the Republican primary, former Trump White House aide and campaign aide, Max Miller, he's got former President Trump's endorsement. How big a role do you think the former president's endorsement for your opponent here will play in this race?
Well, I've been talking to voters for 15 months throughout this district. I have knocked over 70,000 doors. We have gone doorstep to doorstep, really making a purpose to talk to every single voter humanly possible. And what we have learned is that people are ready to make their own choices. They know that who Donald Trump has endorsed. They know who have lots of organizations and individuals who have endorsed, but they have said, I'm going to make my own decision. I'm going to think for myself. I'm going to vote for myself. We've seen the results of following the big endorsements, the big money. And ultimately, we know these endorsements ultimately come down to connections, who you know, how much money you have. And that hasn't done us any favors in this country. We have to break the status quo. We have to send outsiders that aren't part of this inside country club circle that we currently have running politics. That's who Max Miller is. But ultimately, people are making their own choices. They're doing their own research, their own homework. And that's going to put us in a lot better position if we can all do that throughout the country.
So, Jonah, what are the top issues for the voters that you hear from? What do you think is the most important issue for the people of the 7th District?
Well, there's many things. Obviously, right now, our country is in disarray. This campaign began. People were very focused on being able to make their own medical decisions, not wanting to be fired for making a different choice on the vaccine or making a different choice on masks. People are really concerned with the gas prices that we're seeing right now, $4 here a gallon in Northeast Ohio, and people are having to choose between paying their rent, clothing their children, or filling up their tank. That's not a position that these working class people can afford to be in. We need an all of the above energy approach that really pursues the most affordable and accessible options and the most efficient options for the American consumer. We need to secure our border. We have an invasion right now of 3 million illegal immigrants streaming across our border since Joe Biden became president. That's unsustainable. That is dangerous. And in the inflation across the board, this is on both parties here. We have had reckless spending by especially Democrats, but Republicans as well, when they were in control, passing trillions of dollars packages that are devaluing our currency and putting us in more and more debt and hurting the American consumer. We have to put, again, the American people first, and that starts by not spending their money so recklessly and making sure that they have money in their pockets to be able to pay their rent, to be able to pay off their debt, to be able to send their children to school and do all the things that people do in these communities.
So I want to ask you about our democracy. The 2020 election certified by all 50 states, by the responsible officers in those states, Republican and Democratic, confirmed against charges of fraud by 60 courts of law. Republican judges, Democratic judges, 8 of them appointed by President Trump, investigated by the Attorney General appointed by President Trump, and confirmed in the Congress as well after the January 6th attack. How do you think the country recovers from such a divisive election and that attack? What do you think comes next for our democracy in general?
Well, right now we're living in a system, and whatever you want to call 2020. Some people think it was stolen. Some people think it was rigged. Some people think it was the most safe election in all of American history. Whatever you think.
What do you think? Well, what do you think, Jonah? What do you think?
I think the election in 2020 was certainly rigged to the Democrat Party. It was certainly rigged through massive mail-in voting, through lack of photo ID verification. And ultimately, we want to just have the most safe, secure process that doesn't keep any American from voting. And that's very simple for me. That means nationwide photo ID. It means ending the massive unsolicited mail-in voting, and it means criminalizing ballot harvesting. Those actions will not stop a single legal vote from being cast and will not make the process any harder for any individual who wants to vote. So ultimately, you have Americans all over this country who again, in 2016, Democrats were saying that the election was stolen. In 2020, Republicans are saying that the election was stolen. We cannot continue to go on this way. We need to put in place basic common sense election integrity measures. And that's one thing that I'll champion when I'm in Congress.
All right. Well, Jonah Schulz, thank you very much for being with us, telling us about your race in the 7th Congressional District in Ohio there. And we wish you luck. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.